It'll be simpler. All the best events are going to be or most of the finals are going to be happening the morning in the States. And we're going to stick to that schedule. But was there a part of you who was thinking, hey, maybe we need to do a midnight podcast last night after what Karsten Warholm just did?
I grabbed my microphone. I walked to my car. I was getting ready to drive in, Gordon. I was absolutely ready. Yeah, prime time here in middle of the day in Tokyo, but it was a prime time performance for Warholm. Yeah, absolutely. It felt weird to wait as long as we did to record. And then I looked at the schedule for today and I saw women's 8 and women's 2. And I was thinking to myself, what are the chances that those are underwhelming? Basically 0. So I thought, man, we're going to have just a completely stacked show. But I guess we'll start men's 400 hurdles first. Then we'll go to the finals we just saw and then work our way backwards from there. 45.94 for Karsten Warholm. Rai Benjamin, second, 46.17. Alison Dos Santos, 46.72. The world record going into this race was 46.70 by Warholm. And that just happened. And he just completely rewrote the record book. And he had been, and Benjamin, and got to give credit to Abderrahmane Samba for a couple of years ago, started this trend of getting closer to world record, getting closer to low 47s, high 46s, a lot of high 46s. And then he eventually knocks the door down and does that 46.70. But Gordon, if you thought that was the outlier performance, if you thought that was going to be the last thing Warholm did in terms of time, you were sorely mistaken. It turns out he had a 45.94 in him.
He literally has changed this event. You could put, and Rai Benjamin for that matter as well. They just have this is like, in the marathon, the idea of breaking two hours in the marathon was unfathomable. The world record was 2:01, 2:02 for such a long time. And then Kipchoge came in, transcended the sport, and even though technically no one has actually officially broken it on a sanctioned course, the same concept is there. The idea to change a world record, let's take away the world record he did earlier in the year, the 46.70, was 46.78, right, Kevin Young?
Mm-hmm.
That was the original world record. And that was around for 25 years. To take almost a second off the world record heading into the year and mainly do it in one race, it was like a 2% decrease, or like 1 point something percent decrease. 1 to 2% decrease in a world record. That's like taking 2 minutes off the marathon world record. That's like taking 3 to 4 seconds off the mile world record. You just don't do that. We're at a point in society where people don't break world records by that much anymore. Like, it's all about just another decimal here, another decimal, boom, boom, boom. But like, to do, it's just making also 400 meter times, 400 meter hurdle times, all of a sudden have a new perspective. Like, you used to think 47 seconds was like, whoa, you just broke 48. You're in the 42nd seconds tier. That's just a second away from where the world record is. Now we're gonna start normalizing sub 47. Like, it's all because when you've won 45.94 and the guy's in his prime, this isn't like the end of the road. Rai Benjamin's a year younger than him, runs 46.17. There's so many thoughts that go into this, but I really think I'm rambling a little bit, but I think there's a reason why this happened. The reason why this happened was because Karsten Warholm was in front of Rai Benjamin. Karsten is a guy who has to control the race, right? Because he's a world record holder. He's defending champ from 2019. He's the one that he's the one who gets to control the race. And if the person controlling the race is on the outside of the main challenger, which was Rai Benjamin, Warholm had no leeway to like take a lay of the landscape of the rest of the lanes. He had to go from the gun, and he could never trust that his lead was big enough, or never trust that he was in best enough position. And that forced him to go out hard, and it forced Rai Benjamin to continue to chase. And I really think if it was switched, I think if Warholm would have kind of ran off of Benjamin, and Benjamin would have been running like 46.5, 46.6, 46.7. And I think we probably would have had a world record of 46.5. But because Warholm was in the front, he knew he kind of was like running scared in a way. That made him go that extra 0.2 seconds, that extra 0.4 seconds. And then Benjamin benefited from it because he's just chasing a 45-second guy. So he's going to run 46.17. But that lane draw, hey, it all goes back down to semifinals. If Benjamin would have beat Warholm in that semifinals, their lanes would have been swapped, and then maybe we don't see a 45.94. So that semifinal was a blessing in disguise. It is incredible. I don't, man. That that's better than Rudisha's 800 in 2012. I mean, I'm just gonna say it. Yeah. Anyway, we'll talk about that more.
No, I agree, and I'm a huge fan of that race. But I came up with a list of recent races that I thought now are vying for second best race I've ever seen, because this was it. You brought up the lane draw. Obviously, a lot of things go into this. The track is quick. Obviously, times have been fast. The weather conditions are great. You have a rival there who you know you need to be at your best to beat, but you also have just an incredibly deep field. We mentioned Dos Santos running 46.72, and you have PRs all throughout the field, basically. And in 2019, in Doha, it wasn't supposed to be this fast, but we thought the world record was going to get obliterated because we had Warholm and Benjamin against each other. It was for the second time. They had run earlier that season. It was fast and it was really close. And for whatever reasons, the times didn't produce in Doha. But I think now when you look back at it, it just has to do more with that was the fluky one-off, right? That was the, oh man, how do we get these people together and they didn't run an amazing world record, because you could see what they created today. If you go back and watch the race, Gordon, you know how in swimming they have that world record line throughout the entire race that you can follow?
Yeah.
So okay, go back and watch the race with the knowledge that Dos Santos basically ran the world record. He ran 46.72. He was 2/100ths off the world record. Dos Santos was the world record line, and Warholm makes up the stagger on him off the first curve. And then you're watching the last 100. You're watching the last 100, and your eyes are completely transfixed on this race. I don't know about you. Were you watching the clock at all at this race? This was such a good race, and Benjamin gave it everything he had. My whole focus, I thought in the back of my mind, hey, the world record's going to be gone. But then I was also thinking back to Doha 2019, and hey, you can't take anything for granted. And then Benjamin closes the gap from basically 100 to go to 50 to go, closes the gap. I think that's the closest he got, was right off of hurdle 10. And it wasn't until those final strides when Warholm was clearly going to win that I looked over at the clock, and it was ticking from 44 to 45. And I thought, my God, what are we going to see when this thing stops?
Yeah, I wasn't looking at the clock either, but I had seeing the way Warholm was running and then his final 10 meters, knowing that he was still looking good and he didn't kind of shut down after the final hurdle. I knew it was going to be a good time. I looked at it. 2019, Warholm was on the inside to Benjamin. So I think that's why I went slow. I think Warholm was like, I got to beat Benjamin. So just cue off of him. And Benjamin's going to run, but Benjamin's not going to go for broke, right? He's going to try to control himself. And then Warholm just kind of is going to need to run as hard because he just says, I just got to beat Benjamin. And I think in this situation, Warholm knew he had to run as humanly fast as possible because he knew if I see Benjamin at all in the race, I'm screwed. Like, it's over. I'm not going to win because he'll be making up the stagger on him and that'll be all she wrote. And the only time Benjamin got close was in that final hurdle. And I think he probably saw him on his shoulder, and then he had that last acceleration after that final hurdle. Man, this is awesome. I just hope this isn't the end of it, right? They're young, right? They're Warholm born in 96, Benjamin 97, Dos Santos, who just almost broke the old world record, was born in 2000. He's 21. So, like,
Yeah.
you have to.
I
We Samba hasn't been the same, but like now we have Dos Santos from Brazil to kind of give us a big three.
mhm.
This is weird.
Yeah,
Dos Santos almost broke the world record, and we don't even consider him in the big three anymore. Like it's just like that's how
well
crazy Warholm has been.
when 45 becomes the new 46, things start to change. You start to look at
Yeah,
high 46s completely differently. It's interesting. You brought up the Doha race again with the lane draw. I think the margin there was 0.24. It was 0.23 today. So similar margin of victory. And when I went and you watched that last hurdle, it kind of looked like coming off the last hurdle, you're like Benjamin's really pushing. And of course he's pushing because the guy he's chasing is running sub 46. And you're thinking, oh, maybe he has a chance to close because Benjamin's such a good closer. But he had to go so fast just to get to that point, right? When you saw him going off of 7 and 8, Benjamin was tearing off those hurdles. Like, were you so used to him being so smooth? And he was smooth here, but you could see the urgency, and credit to him for believing he could do it. I just think off that last hurdle just completely runs out of gas. And then you look at the time and it makes perfect sense because why would you have anything left if you're running 46.17? 46.17 and getting silver and 46.72 to get bronze is just cruel. But I mean, they made the race. They made it what it is. And to answer your question, are we going to see it? You hope this isn't the end. I hope so too, but I've also learned not to assume everything's going to get faster. And I hope that I hope they have a lot of great races. Put the times aside for a second. I just hope we get to see them have a lot of great races. But if the time and the planets never align again in the future, at least we got this one. I want to see him keep racing. But if we don't see from this generation another sub 46, which could be possible, then I'll just savor this one because man, I jumped off my couch. I made some weird noise. I don't even know what it was. Everybody was asleep in my house. I think I woke some people up. It was so weird to see the 45 pop on the clock. Like once that was on the screen, I just was so disoriented about what had just happened. And I prepared myself for everything. I prepared myself for a world record, but he just outdid it somehow.
yeah. It'd be like seeing a 42 pop on the clock for Open 400. It'll be like seeing a 139 pop up on the clock for an 800. It's just like you're not supposed to be in this realm. We're not there yet. It's only 2021. We gotta wait till like 2050 to be in that realm.
Yeah.
I do think one advantage that we will have to potentially seeing this again is Rye is still young, and he still now has another carrot ahead of him, right? The carrot of breaking the world record. Obviously, he had the carrot of world record / American record by Kevin Young, but now I think Rye Benjamin doesn't have a reason to kind of settle, and he's going to want to still win, and Warholm is not going anywhere, so there'll still be that factor. And I think he's going to be like, hey, Warholm just ran sub 46. I want to run sub 46. So I think these next 22, 23, 24, I think we'll see at least one more 45.
One more classic. Yeah, I hope. Yeah. I hope. And that's kind of the frame of reference that I use when I think about how this plays historically. And before we talk about historically, Vernon Norwood tweeted that, and others, Rye got to anchor the 4x4. Yes, I think Rye Benjamin was on the 4x4 before this race, and now he's certainly on it because you can just do some simple math here. He ran 46.17 with barriers in his way. You can it doesn't take a genius to figure out, like, you take those things away, he's going to run ridiculously fast. Okay, historically.
Travis, Karsten Warholm is the 142nd fastest 400-meter runner in the world this year. Albeit he had hurdles in his way, but it's just crazy that he's top 150 in the world. Like they need to make sure they put this mark on the 400-meter books. Like that's where it belongs. It belongs on both the 400-meter hurdle books and the 400-meter books because he just ran do you think they'll do that? Do you think because it's sub 46 they'll add Karsten
No.
Warholm as like 400 meter marks. Oh yeah, he ran a 45 second. People are gonna skip over it, thinking like, oh, okay, that must have been like an open 400. Oh wait, no, he did that with hurdles. It's incredible.
um. So, Travis, I'm not able to load the chat. So if you have any good stuff in the chat, just send it to me. Uh, Historically, you mentioned better than London, the 2012. People are talking about greatest race ever, greatest Olympic race ever, greatest men's race ever. It helps to put a little, like, to shrink the universe a bit, because track is so many events. It encompasses
Yes,
so many different
tell me about it.
competitions. You could talk about the marathon, you could talk about the shot put, you could talk about the 100, you could talk about Olympics, world championships. So it helps to limit it a bit, just to know exactly what it is we're trying to define. So I just thought of races that I've seen in my lifetime, or just prior to my lifetime. I of course thought of Rudisha 2012, where he breaks his own world record, goes from the gun, leads everybody to really fast times in London, drops it under 141. So you had the 140 for the first time ever. Thought about Van Niekerk 2016, 43.03. Wasn't as big of a drop in time, but still the fact that he got that close to sub 43 was notable. Michael Johnson in 96. You talk about a big drop in performance in that 200 in Atlanta. Takes the record from 1966 down to 1932 in a 200. That's pretty phenomenal. You brought up Kipchoge before. Again, I'm just looking at men's performances in this era. And then I guess, Bolt 0809. I mean, it's obviously not as huge of a jump down in time, but just the wow factor of seeing a 958. The thing with Bolt, like, you had the 969 and then you had the 958 back to back. Again, you could look at his 200-meter performances as well too. But for it to be the greatest race, I think it needs to have a couple different components. You have to have the big stage. So the Olympics checks that box, doesn't get any bigger than that. You have to have the huge performance, and it helps when it's a huge jump in performance. First time you're seeing 45 in a 400-meter hurdle race, something like that, or first time you see a 140 in an 800. And then there's this third part, which the other performances I mentioned were lacking. I think it has to have a co-star or stars. And that is where this one stands out, because at hurdle 10, this race was in doubt. We just both mentioned we were
Yeah,
not looking at the clock at all. And you go back and look at those other performances that I mentioned, and the outcome was never in doubt. Not just in the race itself, but even in the buildup and the lead up to it. We knew that Rudisha was going to handle his business. In the 400 in Rio, Van Niekerk was just, everybody was running fast, but he just blew everybody away, right? And then coming off that last curve, they had no chance. Everybody ran a great race, but he was just a lot better. This was close. Like, let's put this photo up here. I mean, that's insane to think just how close they were in this race, and the winner ran 45.94. So you put all those components together, the big stage, the huge jump in performance, and the co-star. I think it matches up. You could look at another, like the men's long jump in 91, Powell versus Lewis. Obviously, there was a 1-2 dynamic there as well. I'm willing to hear the debate. I think it's a fun debate to have, but what do you think?
I think your point of having a co-star makes this race clinch the top race of all time, because when you see incredible performances, normally you're the only one who can ever do it, not only of your generation but of all time. But the fact that there was two athletes on the track running near 45-second pace shows that, like, it's like double all time, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, if we saw this race and Rye wasn't in it, or Rye was in it and Rye was getting beat by a whole second, if Rye was back with Dos Santos, it would have been all about, like, incredible Warholm performance. But
Mm-hmm.
it would have been more about Warholm. But I feel like our big reaction is the race. It's not really Warholm. We're talking about the race. Now, Warholm is the star of the race because he won and he deserves all the credit. But we're not talking about greatest performance ever. We're talking about greatest race ever, which is
Mm-hmm.
more, in my opinion, harder to achieve because you need all things to happen. And also it's better, right? Because we always say, like, in the end, track and field is about competition, right? It's not about
Yeah.
time. And we sometimes get all bent out of shape over chasing records and time trials. And what we love is the perfect combination of still getting those great times, all-time great times, but also having the actual pureness of the sport, which is the competition and the race. And Benjamin being in there, I'm sure Warholm is much more thrilled that his 45.94 comes with second place running 46.17 than would have been if he's running in a different era and second place is running 47.2 and he's just smoking everyone. It's like, all right, this isn't. It's like watching. Sometimes blowouts aren't fun, right? No one likes to watch a
Right.
blowout. You want to watch Game 7, final shot, 2 seconds left, and go in. So
I think
as
that's a
much
good
as
distinction
yeah,
that you made.
yeah,
There's a difference between best race and best singular performance. And for the last couple of years, because Warholm's on 3 years now being undefeated, I've said this guy doesn't need anybody to run fast because we've seen him do it time and time again. He takes that outside lane in these diamond leagues, knowing he's not going to need anybody to run fast. But what I
he needed
learned
to ride here.
watching last night, he can go faster when he has somebody else. Yes, he can go fast and go all time fast and break a world record without anybody. But to put that time into outer space, which is what he did today, you needed Rye. You needed Rye. So, yes, he could have done a world record by himself, and we've seen that time and time again. But to create like a classic, he needed somebody else in this race because coming off that last hurdle, having that person, I mean, he's breathing right down his neck coming off that last hurdle. So you got to see him, got to feel him at least. And that is, I think you're right, what pushes it from 46.2, which we still would be losing our minds about, by the way, if he broke the world
Yeah,
record by half a second or 40, even if he ran 46.5 and took a couple tenths, that's still a big jump up in time, especially compared to what we've seen recently. But you don't get the sub 46 without Benjamin there.
yeah, incredible, dude. So much else happened, like in the past.
I